Okay, so welcome everybody, and thank you very much for joining us on this Sunday afternoon. So today is a special webinar to talk about our upcoming annual members exhibition. A lot of the information we shared already in our June newsletter, but this is an opportunity for Q&A towards the end of our presentation, as well as for a bit more details around some of the T's and C's and hints and tips about entering. Okay, so first let me give you a little bit about the history of our organization. So Ceramics Western Cape, that was previously known as Ceramics Southern Africa Western Cape region, has recently registered as a public benefit organization and is independent financially from the CSA National. And its aim is really to unite ceramic artists throughout the Western Cape. And to do so, we empower the community by providing opportunities for growth and development through workshops, seminars, Skillshare, etc., as well as giving opportunities for sales, exhibitions through our potters markets and various exhibitions throughout the year. Okay, so the annual members exhibition is actually the highlight of our year, which brings together our entire committee, volunteers, various stakeholders that we've worked with for many years to bring us an event that's truly world class, we believe. So the organization itself has a very long history, more than 50 years, and the annual members exhibition has been taking place for many of those years. And it's really the aim is to showcase the exceptional work of our members and to really put us out there within the international art and ceramics community. Okay. I thought I'd give you a bit of the history that we know about. This is the recorded history of the exhibitions over the years. Obviously, the history goes back much longer than this, but some of those details are lost to the annals of time. It was before the days of Google Drive, and a lot of these people are now resting in peace. So the first one we know of took place in 2010. Okay, obviously, as I said, there were events much earlier than that, but these are the ones that we're aware of. So you can see we're part of this long, unbroken history of ceramics history, really, of the Western Cape and the country. And I hope many of you here had attended and participated in many of these. So it's important to take note of the dates for our exhibition, which really takes place next month. So the opening and the awards ceremony will take place on Saturday, the 26th of July at 2 p.m. at 6 Spin Street Gallery, which is in Church Square in Cape Town. We've been having our exhibitions here for the past 2 or 3 years. Um, and the reason why we moved to the center of Cape Town, well, first, it was very accessible. And obviously, most importantly, it gives us the best kind of deal in terms of venue hire and commission fees and things like that. Okay, so the exhibition will run from the 26th of July to the 7th of August. Okay, and our wrap party is actually falls smack bang on a first Thursday. So that will be an event that it would be great to have you all attend at any point during the day on that day, or even stay until the evening. Okay. The important thing that we need to call out here is that entry is open really next week, Wednesday, so 2nd to 5th July till Saturday. Being winter, I know it's a big schlep to get your works to dry on time and things. I hope you've been busy in the studio and achieved success in that. Okay, because your photographs, etc., will need to be in next week. Okay. So once you've entered, there's lots that happens in the background, and we'll cover the detail in that in the following slide. But you'll be notified if you're selected on the 15th of July, and the drop-off of works will take place from th that week, the Thursday to the Saturday. Okay. Then the exhibition will open on the 26th. Okay, and then any unsold work at the end of the exhibition can be collected on the Friday and Saturday. Okay, I'll just leave that on for like another minute so people can take note if they want to. Okay, I'm going to move on to the award categories. Okay. So, as usual, there are two main categories, the Premier Award category and the New Signature category. So let's start with the Premier category. So the Premier category is for anyone who has previously exhibited in at any venue, anywhere, basically. So any physical exhibition that you've participated in qualifies you to enter in the Premier category. The new signature category is for those members who have not entered anywhere previously in any physical exhibition. So basically, you can only enter the new signature basically once in your life in terms of our awards. Okay, so new signatures are literally for people who are entering any exhibition for the first time. Everyone else would be in the premier category. Okay. So a maximum of 3 pieces may be entered per entry. So an entry, okay, can consist of 3 individual pieces, of which one piece can be a set. By a set, we mean like a set of separate artworks, but is viewed together as a cohesive whole and must be sold as a cohesive whole. Okay, so the entry fee, as I mentioned, is 300 Rand in total, not per piece entered. And I'm pleased to say that this entry fee hasn't gone up in many, many years. Okay. So this exhibition focuses on contemporary ceramics. If you remember last year, we also experimented with a category for functional forms. However, we've decided, in line with many such exhibitions across the world and in the country, to have one contemporary ceramics category in which everyone's works will fall. Okay, so a little bit of explanation of what we mean by contemporary ceramics. Basically, contemporary ceramics is, I guess, whatever you're working on right now. But some of the things we look for is innovative and expressive forms, interesting surface treatments and textures, and some kind of narrative or concept that goes behind it. Okay. Okay, so now I'm going to hand over to Leroux, who will show us how to submit using the online portal.
Yeah, so as I said, we'll put the link on the front page and also make it available through our usual channels. Make sure you are registered as a member and also have a profile on the website. Any assistance regarding that, do please contact myself or Chantal. Um, yes. So for this form, I'm gonna do kind of like a dummy entry. Um, me- to make sure that you have a valid email address put in, and also valid bank details, and do give us a short description of your studio work or so. Um, Now for the actual entries, Rosh described the Premier and the new signature categories. Do make sure you tick one of those buttons. Then adding details to your pieces. Um, if you're unsure, we've got these little info pop-ups to describe kind of what we're asking for each text box.
I will be
Um,
explaining that in more detail as well.
okay. Um, do. Dimensions are in centimeters, width, length, and height. And the price, you need to include the commission for the piece as well. Um, okay, now when choosing files or your images, so just to be clear, you're gonna do this for all your entries, and then selecting files or images for the works. Do note I'm selecting all three images at the same time and saying open, clicking the accept terms and conditions. If you're unsure about terms and conditions, it is available there. I need to update that. That I'll have that ready for the second. And also do note that the bank details are below the form. Do send me a proof of payment once you've made payment. Now, files have been selected and you can click submit entry. And once you get this little text box, it should be all good. And then within a short while, we'll be able to send you a confirmation of the pieces that have been entered successfully. And that's the submission process.
Cool. Thanks, Leroux. If you can just continue sharing and scroll down, there's one or two things I need to mention. Okay, so you'll see there's a field just below where you enter the medium of your piece called original glaze. Okay, so by medium we really mean like what mediums did you use, like earthenware, porcelain, stoneware, underglazes, oxides, whatever media you used. But then there's one called original glaze. Now, not every piece will be glazed, certainly. This is only required if you wish to be considered for the Glaze Award. So that's something I didn't mention earlier, but we have two sponsored awards, sponsored by Garth Mayer, who is an icon of our kind of clay industry. Okay, and he is sponsoring two awards. One is the Wheelwork Award, and one is the Original Glaze Award. But the glaze award, you need to share the recipe. Okay. So if you wish to be considered for that award and you have a glaze piece and you wish to share the glaze, then that is where you would enter it. It's an optional field. Then the other thing, there's a easy formula for you to work out the price. Okay. So the gallery charges a 40% commission. I mean, obviously galleries are businesses and they make money by charging commissions on the work. Okay. So how you work out your price that we need to market your work at is you take the price that you want for the work and divide it by 0.6. So the price you want and divide it by 0.6. So 100 Rand divided by 0.6 will give you an answer like 100 and whatever, 16 or whatever. Okay, maybe you can just take a quick note. So whatever price you want to take home, divided by 0.6 will give you the price that we will market it as.
Just
Okay.
to clarify, um, sorry, Rosh,
Mm-hmm.
the price that they enter here is the price that which will be on display at the exhibition.
Yeah. So we've gone through the main award categories, which was a premier and new signature. Okay, we've gone through the online submission process and the entry fee. So there are two other award categories as well. Okay. There's a non-juried invitational category, and this any member can enter, regardless of whether you're premier, new signature, or whatever. And the theme, as you might be familiar with, the theme changes every year. And the theme for this year is water. And we chose this theme because it's water is elemental and it's such an important part of the work that we do. It's an essential part of the clay we work with, and we use it in making our works. And it's really a very open terrain for your creativity to run wild. in terms of the submissions here. And for the invitational category, you actually enter your works via WhatsApp. Okay, and the number is over here, and we'll share all these details, or we'll share this newsletter, the June newsletter again on our WhatsApp chat in case you missed it the first time around. Okay, and we encourage all members to enter. Okay, there is a restriction though on the size of the piece. Okay, which is 20 centimeter cubed. Okay, then for our fellows, so fellows of Ceramics Western Cape have been appointed over many years, and they really represent like masters in the field of ceramics. So fellows can also enter via WhatsApp. Okay, and they can also enter 3 pieces, but these are also non-juried. They're there to inspire us. Okay, moving on. So as you saw from the submission form, photographing your work is quite important to the extent that we're asking for 3 images per piece. One image must contain a matchbox for scale because it's very difficult from pictures to get an idea of the scale of your work. So hence we're asking everyone to use a matchbox and use like a normal lion matchbox. So, the scale is the same for everyone. Okay. So when photographing a piece, here are some useful tips. One is to prepare your sculpture. So clean your piece thoroughly, ensure there's no dust, fingerprints, or smudges because they tend to get magnified in photos. Okay. Then check if there are any flaws or hairline cracks, etc., that could show up unexpectedly in lighting and place your work accordingly. Okay, use a plain or neutral background. We generally recommend white, gray, or black, depending on the colors of your piece. Okay, and that really helps the sculpture to stand out and stand out for the selectors as well, because you want to obviously have the best opportunity for your work to be selected. So in terms of this background, what I personally do, what I find is poster board works quite well. Okay, so I have a poster board which I put on the surface and then one standing up behind it. And then I photograph the work, but you can also use cloth prepared that it doesn't have too many creases that cast shadows, or a roll of photo paper or poster paper. Basically, you want to eliminate as many shadows as possible. Okay, oops. Your lighting should be soft and even. Okay, so basically that is to eliminate shadows. So using natural light is probably the best. Okay, if you can do it close to a light-filled window or doorway, or use 2 lights placed at 45-degree angles just in front of the sculpture. Okay, and if you find your light is too harsh and casting too many shadows, especially on a textured work, then you can cover the kind of lampshade of your light with a piece of paper or a bed sheet or something to just diffuse the light a bit. Okay. Then in terms of the camera, so any smartphone with a good camera will do, or a digital camera. Okay. If possible, or if you need it, use a tripod or some kind of support to make sure your camera is steady and so that it can focus sharply. Okay, it's also useful to turn on grid lines on your camera or your camera app so you can ensure that your piece is centered. Also shoot at eye level with a sculpture, unless it's a kind of piece that necessarily requires an angle, which most of the time it isn't the case. So I would really recommend shooting at eye level. Okay, you can also set up your camera to be the highest resolution available. And because we require 3 pictures, a good rule of thumb is to give us a front view, a side or angled view. You can give us a back view if the back view contains some good detail, or if you want to highlight something in a close-up view, for example, your texture or glaze, or any intricate like slipware or patterns, etc. One of your pictures can be a close-up. Or if it's part of a set, then photograph the entire set as well. Because remember, how we display your work will be based pretty much on how you photograph it as well, especially if it's a set. Okay, do we have any questions at this point about photographing your work? Okay, that's great. The other thing we ask for is an artist statement for each of the pieces that you're entering. Okay, and it's really there to aid the selectors and provides insight into your creative process or the concept behind your work. And it helps judges and even the viewers who come to view the exhibition to connect more deeply with your work. Okay, it's a chance for you to convey the essence of your work, what it's about, why you made it, and how you approached it. So, in general, an artist statement will consist of the following bits. And remember, we need to keep it as short as possible. Okay, so an introduction, like maybe the first sentence or two, would be about what your work is about. So describe the central idea or theme of the piece and what inspired you to create it. And here I've given an example. For example, this piece explores the fragility of memory and the passage of time. Inspired by the fading photographs in my grandmother's suitcase, I sought to evoke both nostalgia and impermanence. So here I'm depicting like the central idea or the theme and what the inspiration was. Okay. Then you go on in the next sentence to talk about the materials and process and how you went about making it. So mention the mediums, the media that you used, or any innovative approach that you've come across. And also, if you want to explain why you chose those materials. Okay, for example, I used hand-built porcelain, allowing the surface to remain raw and unglazed to convey a sense of vulnerability. Each form was deliberately imperfect to reflect the incomplete nature of memory. Okay. Then in the next sentence, you want to talk about what you want the viewer to feel or think when they look at your piece. So basically your intention of what you hope to communicate with this piece. And importantly, keep it authentic and avoid over-explaining. You must leave something open for the viewer as well, while you just give them the hint. For example, I invite the viewer to reflect on their own relationship with time and loss and to find beauty in what remains incomplete. Okay. So our selection panel is really prestigious this year, and as you know, we change our selectors every year. So a piece that could win in one year could not be selected on the other year. It's kind of a very subjective process, but rest assured that we really choose iconic members of our ceramics community. So let me go on to introduce them. Okay, let me know if you can see the page I'm sharing. Meet the selectors.
Yeah, we can see.
So our head selector and the awards judge is Andile Dialvanu, who really doesn't need me to introduce him because his work and his personality stands for himself within the ceramics community of the Western Cape and South Africa. Okay. He is one of the founders of Imiso Ceramics and was one of the judges of the recent Clay Awards, as well as the recent National Ceramics Awards. Okay, is one of South Africa's leading ceramic artists, and he graciously agreed to be our head judge and selector this year. Okay. He's exhibited internationally numerous very prestigious awards, as well as being an award-winning artist himself. So is our next selector, Chuma Maweni. Okay, he is really a master potter of hand-thrown ceramics who has entered this exhibition in the past, and you must have seen his works. They are very striking and incorporate both modern forms as well as traditional pit firing. Okay, and Chuma will be our next selector. And our third selector is Peter Jacobs, who is also familiar to us as potters within the Western Cape. He comes from also a teaching background, very, very familiar with the techniques in ceramics, so will appreciate the skill and all the work people put into their ceramics. Okay. Then our curator this year is a very young, dynamic, upcoming curator who's actually curated many works or many exhibitions at Spin Street Gallery. And where I made contact with him was through the Emerging Artists Program of the city of Cape Town. So it will be very exciting to see what his concept will be this year in terms of displaying our works. Okay. So his name is Zimasile, and he actually works around the corner of the gallery um, at Vela Projects. Okay. So I'm going to move on now to the selection process, which is also in our newsletter. So if you let me scroll down. Okay. So all entries submitted within the timeline, which is the 2nd to the 5th, we first review them for completeness and compliance with the entry guidelines. For example, your membership must be up to date, that it must be an original work, that it must be obviously hand-built and not like 3D printed or some commercial work that's been entered. Okay. Next, our selectors will independently evaluate the submissions based on the photographs and your descriptions. Okay. And on our selection system, they cast a vote of yes, no, or maybe. This process is conducted anonymously at this stage, so each one of them will be independently viewing your works and your descriptions and voting for them. And at the end, the individual scores are then compiled. Okay, so obviously the ones with obvious yeses between the three selectors automatically get selected. Then there will be some that are kind of on the fence, which are maybe two yeses and a no, or maybe all maybes, etc. Then those ones are re-evaluated. So all three selectors will come together to re-evaluate those and discuss it. And then we'll have our final list of accepted works. And thereafter, the final notifications are sent to the entrance. Okay, and then you will be invited to come drop off your work at the gallery. Okay, and we've made a few days available where you can drop off your works, and we'll have some volunteers there to accept the work and chat to you if there are any special notes we need to make about your work. Okay, in terms of how you've packaged it or how we need to open it. Very delicate works will allow you to actually unbox it, for example. Okay. Then once the works have all been unboxed and sort of curated in the gallery, then our head judge will come in and make his selection for the awards. This is before any identifying labels or anything are added. All we'll tell him is that these ones are all the new signatures and these ones are all the premieres, and he makes his selections for each of those categories. Then also our special awards, the wheelwork and glaze awards, will also be made at the same time before any identifying characteristics are placed on any of the plinths. The wheelwork and glaze awards, there will be one award regardless of whether you're a new signature or premier. So it will be judged from amongst all the works. Okay. So there's also ample opportunity for our members to come and volunteer by either coming to sit with us at the gallery when works are being delivered to help us meet the entrance, sign in works, help us unbox, etc. Then there's also an opportunity for you to come pot sit. Pot sitting means really sitting at the gallery to babysit the works to ensure that, people handle or don't handle the works actually, that they keep respectful distance of the works, that there's no, I don't know, theft or anything like that, as well as to handle sales. So during the running of the exhibition, we welcome volunteers to help us pot sit. Okay, and now we'll give an opportunity to answer any of your questions. Okay, for the set, how many pieces can be in that set? So we don't really have an upper limit or a set number for the set. If it's a cohesive piece, obviously, it must be kind of reasonable for us to, unpack and store and display within the gallery space. So, I mean, if something, for example, a wall piece that's going to take up a whole wall that requires a whole wall of hooks and nails, it's probably not practical. But I mean, up to 10 or whatever would be fine. I hope that answers. And then in terms of the invitational water theme, yes, 20 centimeter max in length, width, and depth. So we'll have like a 20 centimeter box there and we'll fit your work in. And if it fits, then it qualifies. The other thing is if you're not sure what your membership status is, then you're also welcome to contact Chantal via the WhatsApp line. Okay, and then I see there's another question that came in on the chat. If hairline fractures, cracks, etc. are part of your work, can it be included in the image? Yes. So as I said, one should be a front image, one should be a side or angled image, and then your third image can be the close-up. Okay. So there hasn't been any more questions. I hope this presentation helped get you a bit more in gear for the awards. And has answered your questions. Remember, you can always send me an email or ask on the WhatsApp line any further questions you may have. As I said, entry is open soon, next week. And I wish you all the best of luck and happy photographing. And for those who are still drying and firing, all the best as well. And I hope to see you all at the opening. So thank you once again, and we'll chat again soon.